Morning guys, it's been, as you know, a particularly busy couple of weeks for me, so I thought I was going to have yesterday to catch up, but I had a meeting in the morning with a client for my work, and that took substantially longer than I was expecting. And then I took someone out foraging yesterday afternoon, and that sort of took up a little bit more time again than I was expecting in my head. But so it kind of meant that yesterday, being Saturday, I didn't get a lot of my jobs done that I was expecting. Now, luckily, as you know, I have a superhero wife who has done a lot of the things that I would normally do at the weekend to help me out. There's still a few things for me to do. So among them, I've got to go and fill up our petrol cans. Although we try and use as little petrol and diesel as we can, there are some things we just need it for, like the ride-on mower and some of our garden equipment, and we fill them all up at once just to save trips to the station, really. I've also got to return this. You remember this guy? Now, this is completely my bad. I promised I'd return this much before now, but I'm fairly confident they won't mind, because it's not like they had a job for it to be used for. But I've got to return this post whacker that I borrowed. I've got to go and collect some empty bins and go and collect some fruit and veg as well for the pigs, and some bread. So it's going to be a fairly busy morning for me now, just running around in the car, getting bits and bobs. And then when we get home, hopefully I'll be able to settle into the garden and just do a few bits around the garden and spend some more time with you guys doing some of the more interesting stuff that we do. So I got back just in time for the drizzle. It's not too bad, but we're going to get a few showers today, on and off. I also had to pick up some chicken feed, so I'm going to drop all the chicken feed round. Then I'm going to go and empty the pig bins, put them where they need to be. Put the petrol cans in the store. And then I think I'm going to go and get the chainsaw, and we'll go around the wood. We'll mark some trees for felling, and we'll drop a few. And that'll be the start of preparing for next year's winter house fuel. So we've got these bins basically situated outside all of our chicken runs. We use them to store the feed in, and it keeps the pests out. Now, the feed that we buy for our chickens is something called layers pellets. You're probably familiar with it if you've got hens. And basically it's a formulation that has all the nutrients that the chickens need. Now, as I've said many times before, the eggs that we sell, the money that we get for them, pays for all of our animal feed. Actually pays for more than that. Part of achieving that is obviously doing what you can to keep those costs down. Now, chickens are omnivores. They love some greenery. They'll eat grass, they'll eat plants, all sorts of plants. They'll also eat slugs, snails, bugs. They love to forage, and obviously they'll also eat table scraps and bread and things like that. Now, if you're looking to keep the cost of your chicken feed down, the best piece of advice I could give you is to free range them over as much land as you can. And that's always going to be a delicate balance between giving your birds as much space as you can versus keeping them safe from pests. So that's a subject I could talk on all day and not exhaust it. So it is something I've touched on previously several times in different videos, but it's definitely something you want to think about. You want to give your chickens access to as much ground as possible while still keeping them safe. Because doing that, they're going to forage for so much of their diet. So our hens that are in the meadow that we're going to go to next, because they've got such a wide access to a lush environment, they eat hardly anything else. They get a bit of bread that we give them, and it really costs almost nothing to feed them. But we do make sure that all of our hens have free access, free choice, constant access to these layers pellets, because it means that any shortfall in their diet, they're going to be able to make up. Now, we go sometimes weeks on end without having to fill up one of our feeders based on where the chickens are and what else they're getting. So, like I say, the biggest driver to keeping your chicken feed costs down is giving your hens as much chance as possible to forage. And, you know, that's how they're going to be happiest as well. You know, they're going to be able to supplement their diet the best, keeping your costs down, but they're also going to be healthier, happy hens. So just to put that into some context for you, if you've got, say, 3 birds, if you've got 2 hens and a cock, or 3 hens for just a few eggs for your own family, I think that is entirely achievable to keep those hens really happy, really healthy, and really fed without spending a penny on chicken food. If you're able to give them access to a decent amount of lawn, they're going to take care of most of it themselves. And if you just offer them some table scraps at the end of meals, and you know, the things that you would normally compost or have to find another use for, you're going to be able to get your feed costs down to pretty much zero quite easily without a lot of work. Our flock of Pekin hens are little bantams that we keep outside the kitchen that I've shown you several times. I've no idea how many are in there. I would guess 12 birds, something like that. And because they've got access to quite a large garden and they've got free range for the whole thing, we're able to do that because they're let out during the day, and our dogs have the same access to that garden, so they keep the foxes and things like that away, and then at night they're shut away secure. But because they've got access to such a large area and they're given table scraps occasionally, they don't eat any feed. Or my wife, should I say, she does give them some corn, but as a treat, just to so that they all come following her every time she walks around the garden, or when she goes to put them in at night, she just throws a small handful of corn in. But that's more like a treat, like you would give a dog treats. It's certainly not an essential part of their diet. So this is the treadle feeder that I always talk about, and you'll see down here that nothing can access the feed, and if vermin stand on here, they're not heavy enough to open this up. But when a chicken stands on there, they've got access to the feed. And the nature of this contraption, what chickens quite often like to do with their feed is they'll put their beak in and they'll swish around left and right and dig through it, and it goes everywhere, and they sort of kick it all out behind them onto the grass. Well, this stops that happening, so you get a lot less wastage that way, and obviously you get a lot less wastage from mice and rats and things accessing it. So that's great. I mean, I love these. I absolutely love these treadle feeders. And treadle, I think, might be a brand name. This, if it is, this won't be the brand. This style of feeder is certainly something that I think is well worth the money. This one would have cost maybe £30, something of that nature. You can get them in different sizes, and you can adjust them for different weights of bird as well. So they're definitely something I would recommend that you invest in if you're looking to keep your costs down. The rain's starting to come down a bit now, so I'm going to go in, get a coffee, maybe have some lunch, and then we're going to come out and tackle some of those ash trees up in the wood. We're going to go out and start tackling some of these trees now. I think we've got a gang of boys, 3 woodsmen on the case, me and my 2 sons. We're going to go and have a look. Just spotted one of my boys there hiding in the undergrowth. Yes, it's really simple. The hardest thing about this, the only problematic part for this, is because these trees, the purpose that we're taking them down, they've grown straight up and they're tightly packed with other trees around them, which is why they need thinning. They're not going to fall because they're going to get wedged at the top. So that's something we're going to have to look into. So the only bit of kit I'm going to use is a chainsaw, and this. I'm probably not going to use this today, but this is a brilliant piece of kit. I found this in a skip. This was getting thrown out, which was unbelievable to me. And it's like a saw bench. You put your logs down through there, and then and use it to cut with. So we might end up using that, we might not. We'll see how we get on. So we're going to head into the wood now. The very, very first thing we're going to do is we're going to throw some feed in for the pigs. We're going to throw them in some fruit and veg. And that's going to keep them busy while we're busy. So that's the pigs. Got some food here, so they're going to be quite happy, and we're going to be able to walk around the rest of this wood now for a bit. So this section here is a bit older than the rest. It's this newer section, so it's only smaller trees, but it's this newer section that we need to look at. Torrin spotted one that he thinks is quite unhealthy. Which one, Torrin?
This one.
And how can you tell it's unhealthy, son?
Probably because I can see
Yeah. Over there where there's more ash, you can see in the distance, those are mainly ash trees. We're going to start up in this corner, and here it's just, there are some really obvious ones that, regardless of species, need to come out. So we are going to favour keeping the oaks over the ash, but in this area, these are all oak and beech. So this tree here, right in front of us, is one of the ones that we're going to be taking out. You can see it's got lots of trees growing all around it. None of them are actually going to be able to come to very much because they're all crowded. So we're going to take this one out here, and then we're going to take that one out there. You can see that one's struggling. This one here is still alive, but barely. You can see hardly any growth on it. So we're going to take this one out and this one out to start with. What's that, son?
It's a mushroom wrapped in a leaf.
It is a mushroom wrapped in a leaf.
My favourite type of monster. I like getting a leaf because I don't
Not sure what this is. As a forager, we would call this an LBM, a little brown mushroom. If you're a mycologist, you might spend a lot of time working out what it is. But as a forager, there are thousands of little brown mushrooms that are almost all inedible, and even the ones that are edible aren't delicious, aren't in enough number to warrant collecting them. We just put all of this type of mushroom into one category, little brown mushrooms that we're not particularly interested in. So, which direction do we want this tree to fall, boys? Yeah. Where's the safest way for it to fall?
This way.
Yeah? But what we're looking at here is up above, basically, there are a lot of branches up there that it's going to get hung up in. So we're going to try and drop it basically in the direction that the camera was in. So, boys, point, which direction are we going to fell this tree? Yeah, we're going to try and fell it in that direction. We're going to try and fell it in that direction. When I say try, the only problem is, if we were out in the middle of a field, you could make this fall in any direction you wanted. But because we're in this area with trees all around it, the top branches are going to get hung up in all the other branches of the trees. So we're going to attempt to make it go that way, but it's difficult to say. So the direction that you want it to fall is where you put your first cut. So we're going to put a small V about 1/3 of the way to 1/2 the way through the tree in the direction we want it to fall. So that's the direction the tree will fall. We're now going to put a cut down the back. Now again, as I say, the problem here is the top getting hung up. So there is a possibility that it can swing away. So we're going to make sure that we don't stand too close to the rear of the tree in case it kicks backwards. A slight angle down towards that notch from the back. And as you can see, it's been hung up at the top. So it's hung up on the top, but they're only small trees, so I'm going to be able to just pick this up now down the bottom here. I'm going to be able to just pick up this this trunk and just pull him back out the way I want, and hopefully the top will fall. As you can see, look, this tree had lots of dead limbs on it. It was never going to be a healthy tree. It was struggling for light, but we've already opened up some light now for the other trees to do have a much better existence. Next thing we're going to do is limb it, just cut the limbs off the side. So the boys are going to go and get the cart so that we can put some of the wood in as we cut it. So that's going to now be cut up into logs, and so are the bigger branches, and then we'll move on to the next tree. Obviously this doesn't represent a huge amount of firewood, but it's not that we're harvesting it too early. It's taking this out now is what's going to allow the rest of the trees in this area to thrive. So this is something that needed doing. Even if we didn't need the wood, even if we were leaving the wood here to rot, that would still be a beneficial use of it for this piece of woodland in the long run, for long-term management. So I've been coming through the bulk of this trunk here, go about 2/3 of the way through. Then we're going to roll it over and do the rest because it stops us risking putting our blade into the ground here. You think we'll do it without rope?
Break this one 'cause I can't.
Just roll it over. Oh, sorry, oh, we got it, I
We
think.
don't need you.
We don't need you.
Dad, can I break this one off?
I don't know what you're talking about.
If it'll break.
You
I do have a chainsaw right here.
just try but it just doesn't come off.
I can come back and do the rest. The last thing we're going to do is just take some of the greenery from the top for the goats. That's probably at least a day's worth of firewood. That'll actually heat our whole house for a day. So that took, I don't know, you tell me, 20 minutes. So we're probably going to do another couple, 2 or 3 now. And we don't actually have the fire on much of the year. It's only in the coldest parts of winter. So we don't need to do a tremendous amount of this. And we've got enough to get us all through a winter. Now, this stuff here, we won't be burning that this year. This will now be left to season. And this will be next winter's firewood. The winter of 2021-22. Torren working on his muscles. Battery's gone on the chainsaw, so calling it a day at 1.5 trees. We've got best part of one of those trees in there, look, my son's taking. And then that leaves me and my other son to drag out some of the goat food. You okay, mate?
Yeah.
Do you want my help? Do you want me to take over?
I'm fine.
You sure? It's pretty heavy.
I'm fine.
My son's just found something on these leaves of the oak. What did you find, son? Do you want to point them out? So I've no idea what they are. If anyone out there knows, please let me know. Nice work, son.
What's that?
Well done, Rockers.
Timbo!
Well done.
Now fall over, please. You'll go, Dad.
And you've got to go on.
You got to do that one.
I don't think I can.
So in here, I've got a pig ark that we're not using for animals. And we've got still some of last year's wood, which hasn't been moved yet. So that's all seasoned already. That's been in there for 1.5 years. So we'll either get the rest of that out first, or we'll just put it to one side and remember it. And then we'll get all the new stuff that we've cut and get it in there so it stays dry. Okay, so that's us for today, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you find these videos valuable, there's several ways you can support them. The easiest is to subscribe to our channel. Press that like button. That's something you can do right away, and it doesn't cost you anything, but it means a great deal to me. And you can leave a comment down below. So until tomorrow, we will say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow.